What's the simplest way to write a short story? And also, what's the point? You may want to write a short story because you want to start fast, you want to reach the end of a story fast, you want quick results, and you want quick progress. Now, what else is there to consider here? Short stories allow you to play, to experiment, to try unusual genres, characters, settings. They may be construed as more pleasurable. As they're shorter, you have less work to put into them, and they can allow you to take a break from your longer projects. Finally, they allow you to consolidate your skill and develop more polyvalence, more versatility. Again, because you're trying different unusual type of stories, and you're authorizing yourself to write differently. You acquire more polyvalence. When it comes to the process of writing a short story, here are your numbers. You want your story to be around 5 to 10 pages long. There's a margin here. You can go to up to 15 pages, but not more than that. Because at this point, you may want to, and it could be a good thing in itself, you may want to expand your short story into a fully fledged book. If it is your goal, it is a great indicator that your short story can be scaled up. You want to focus the action on 4 main characters. So you want to focus on the synergy and the relationship between these 4 characters. You want to limit yourself to a maximum of 3 environments or 3 settings. More on that on the next section. And finally, and it may be the most difficult thing to do here, you want to focus on a singular theme. A theme global enough to encompass the interests of your character, the relationship between your characters, and also the type of environment and setting they'll encounter and go through. Your 4 characters will be the core of your story. Here are 4 profiles you can use in order to make the character creation process faster. The first one is the rival. A rival is defined by 4 behavior traits, and here are the 2 main behavior traits given to you in order to give you more flexibility. A rival is relentless and reckless. Here, recklessness should be construed as the mirror of relentlessness. Here, relentlessness is a strength. The fact that your character is relentless will allow her to act in most situations and will cause recklessness, will cause sometimes consequences which will be detrimental for the group, for the collective. Remark that for each of these 4 profiles, you only have 2 behavior traits. You'll have to complete these profiles by adding 2 additional behavior traits and a goal for your characters. More on the goal in the theme section. The second profile is the enticer. The enticer is both enthusiastic and fervid. Again, just like for the rival, fervid is the mirror of her enthusiasm. Your third profile is the advisor. The advisor is the empathetic member of your story. And because she is empathetic, she may be, to some degree, too attached. The final profile is the arbiter. The arbiter is equitable. Now, there's a sense of fairness in this character, but that's not the main purpose here. The purpose is to be equitable, and therefore she has, contrary to the advisor, to develop a certain degree of detachment. You'll remark quite fast that there are interactions between these 2 characters. For example, where the rival is supposedly the acting character, the advisor will be a much more reactive character, completing her. Now, you can also realize that an arbiter type of character can complete a rival type of character, in a sense that they will judge the consequences of the rival's action in a more objective manner. So you can work on the complementarity of multiple characters by forming pairs, whether they are by colorimetric oppositions or by complementarity. Because you're writing a short story, you want to focus your action on a maximum of 3 settings. Now, the words, settings, and environment at this scale, at the scale of a short story, so 5 to 10 pages, or if you're thinking in terms of short movie, maybe it's a 1 to 2 minute movie. You have to consider that setting and environment will be used in the same manner. Now, what's a setting here? A setting is a context. Here, again, the words will be used interchangeably, which will serve 3 kinds of purpose, which is why you have 3 kinds of settings here. You'll need a setting for investigation and research, a setting for comfort and developing characters' relationship through discussion and reflection, and finally, one setting for conflict and developing characters' relationship through adversariality, fights, and crisis. Now, all of these settings can all happen in the very same environment. For example, all of that can happen in the very same house, only, for example, in 3 different rooms. Or all of that can happen in a park, or in a public place, a main square, for example, a supermarket, and so on. You'll just make use of the architecture of the building to give a specific function, a specific role to each of the rooms available. Now, some room will be more appropriate for investigation, other for comfort, other for conflict, depending on the furniture, depending on the purpose of the role, depending on the architecture of the room. All the environment you'll make use can serve any of these 3 purposes. It's up to you to select them. If you plan to scale your short story and want to write fully fledged environments, consider 3 things which will allow you to create any environment in any kind of story. The first thing to consider is atmosphere, and namely the impact of the atmosphere on senses, the impact of light, the impact of the climate, the impact of the colors on the different senses of your characters. If you want more information on senses, we suggest that you perform a research on the different type of senses which are an extension of the 5 traditional senses, namely on one sense which is fairly misused, which is kinesthesia. The second element you want to consider is inhabitants, the populations which are living in the environment and which have the most impact on its atmosphere. Think in terms of settlements and think in terms of occupation of territory. The final thing you want to consider is the architecture of the environment. And here we consider the natural architecture or the built architecture which is made by humanoids. Both have an importance because both have a synergy in the construction of the environment and the modification of the atmosphere and the impact of the inhabitants. This last element will give you the role, the final role of this environment. And this way you can trace a progression from its initial role, which is generally given by the natural architecture, from its final role, which will be given by the added, the built, the humanoid architecture. As you're starting your story, you want to consider how you will display the theme of your story. The easiest way, the most straightforward way to display the theme of your story is through your title. Now, your title doesn't need to be directly the word which is the theme of your story. You can use a metaphor, you can use an allegory, you can even make use of a word in a foreign language, which is through a name. And the name here generally will be given to one of your character, or you can even implement the different dimension of your theme in your multiple characters, which will allow you to transcribe the identity of your character through the name and through the goal of each character, indicating the destination, the purpose of your story. And it can be a literal destination, it can be a place your character are intending to reach. Final option to display the theme of your theme is to materialize it through an item, the item which will be searched, the item which will be coveted by all your characters, the item which may materialize the goal of your characters. If you like this video, you may enjoy this other piece of content. Also, what would you want more of? What should be done differently? Suggest us the content you need. This channel is made for you.